Hey everyone, I'm Lino, a Titan living in China learning English. In China, the income gap between urban and rural areas is pretty big, and even within cities, the income differences can be striking. Beijing, Shanghai, Guangzhou, and Shenzhen are the four most developed cities, what we call first-tier cities, kind of like London in the UK or New York and Los Angeles in the US. Some people might not know about Shenzhen. It's a young city right next to Hong Kong that developed after China's reform and opening up policies. Now, it has some of the highest housing prices in mainland China. So, how much do regular folks earn in these cities? Honestly, I think a lot of the official data is misleading. Under official news releases that mention residents' income, you can always see comments like this: "I'm sorry, I'm holding the country back." Here's a report I found that seems closer to reality. The median monthly income in these cities is somewhere between 4,800 and 6,900 renminbi, with Guangzhou at the low end and Beijing at the high end, which is roughly $675 to $970. This should give you a rough idea of what most people actually make, not like what you see on social media where everyone seems rich. You can occasionally see people on social media saying that it is normal to make more than 10,000 yuan a month, or even saying that this amount of money is very little. Now more and more people are criticizing such posts, and people are becoming more and more aware of the reality. I don't deny that there are many rich people in these big cities, but the wages of most ordinary people are not high. I pulled info from job postings and examples from people around me. As for my own salary, well, I'm too shy to even show my face, so let's leave that out. First off, for lower-level jobs in China, the salary usually has two parts. One part is the base salary, which is generally close to the minimum wage set by the government. If there's overtime pay, it's calculated based on this amount, so employers don't have to pay much extra for overtime. The other part is performance pay, which depends on your job performance. Some sneaky bosses will play tricks here and call this whole thing the base salary, so it's possible to end up earning less than you expect. Job postings usually show pre-tax wages, and over 10% usually gets deducted for medical insurance, pension, income tax, etc. Deductions vary by position, but mine was around 16%. What I mean is that you won't actually get more money than what you see in the job ad. The first job I found was a barista position at Tim Hortons in Shanghai. Every Canadian should know this, right? Which honestly surprised me. I did this kind of job years ago, and the salary is still that low. 4,000 renminbi is about 780 Canadian dollars or 560 US dollars, while the same job in Canada would pay closer to 2,600 Canadian dollars, right? In fact, the wages of waiters working in the catering industry in China are really low, and they are not respected. No experience required, but you have to be between 18 and 35. By the way, finding jobs in China gets hard if you're over 35, which is an interesting quirk of the work culture here. In future videos, we will talk about the widespread discrimination against 35-year-olds in the Chinese workplace. Next up is a store clerk job at Decathlon in Beijing, about $850. Which is a bit better than Tim Hortons. Then there's an import-export logistics supervisor role with a salary range of 12,000 to 20,000 renminbi, around $1,700 to $2,800. Requires undergraduate degree, 2 to 5 years of work experience, proficiency in English. By the way, in most cases, the lowest number in the job ad is the most realistic unless you have a strong connection with the boss. Looking at Costco, the salary for cashiers and catering staff is around 6,000 to 9,000 renminbi for full-time work, about $850. Part-time pays 240 renminbi per day, which is about $4.20 an hour, pretty decent since many part-time jobs only pay a little over 20 renminbi an hour, about $2.80. Then there's a retail sales director role at Hormel in Shanghai, with a monthly salary of 10,000 to 14,000 renminbi, or about $1,400. Sales positions at Tesla in Shanghai can earn between 10,000 and 15,000 renminbi monthly, probably including commission. Tesla's competitor BYD offers sales salaries between 7,000 and 14,000 renminbi. Huawei software developers earn 14,000 to 28,000 renminbi a month, and product managers in mobile earn around 11,000 to 17,000 renminbi. Huawei has a good reputation for its salaries in China, but its job hardship is also among the best. They are the inventors of the wolf culture. On a side note, China's tech companies rarely hire people over 35, and those over 35 often face layoffs unless they've climbed to an executive position. Foxconn, Apple's main supplier in China, is a Fortune 500 company that makes many of Apple's products. Foxconn employs hundreds of thousands of people across China, so it's no exaggeration to call it the largest electronics factory here. Take Foxconn's Chengdu plant for example. 10 years ago, full-time employees had a base salary of 2,100 renminbi, which has only increased to 2,300 renminbi over a decade. It usually takes about 3 months to become a full-time employee. In those 10 years, the base salary at Foxconn went up by just 200 renminbi. During peak times, like around October or the Spring Festival, workers' monthly income is a bit higher. They can make over 5,000 renminbi, and dispatched workers can make even more. But if you join Foxconn right after the Spring Festival, which is the off-season, you might not have much overtime, so your monthly income could drop to just over 3,000 renminbi or even lower. For an adult, this kind of income barely covers their own living costs, let alone supporting a family. This was why more than 10 Foxconn employees in Shenzhen jumped off a building in 2010, which became big news then. These are just the reported incidents. I don't know how many cases went unreported. Even so, Foxconn is still considered a decent factory job with better conditions than some smaller, privately run factories, which can be even worse. In short, if you're doing basic labor in one of these 4 cities, it's tough to get by. You'd probably end up living in a tiny place. In addition to daily necessities, you dare not make large purchases, let alone save. A takeout meal might cost you around $4, and a cup of Starbucks is $5. Of course, regular workers can't afford Starbucks every day. It's more of a middle-class thing, almost a bit of a status symbol in China. If you've got skills and work in tech or internet companies, you'll make a decent salary, but the competition is intense. Buying a house isn't easy either. There's a saying in China, 6 wallets, meaning a couple plus both sets of parents' savings and pensions are needed to afford a house. Then there's the 35-year-old curse. Generally, your career golden years are from your mid-20s to early 30s. After that, if you haven't been promoted to a senior position or joined the public sector, it gets harder to find new opportunities. Many people face early elimination from the workforce because of this. Many people who are forced to deliver food in China have a bachelor's degree or above. This is another uncomfortable topic. I'm Lino, a Titan living in China learning English. See you next time.